Some of these cars weren't just fast for their time, they simply didn't fit the system they were supposed to enter. Not because they were flawed, but because the way they delivered performance didn't line up with what was expected or easily approved. And that's where the real story is. This isn't just about which ones were quick, it's about why they were hard to bring in, what made them stand out the moment they hit the road, and why people still go after them today. By the end of this list, you'll see which ones truly push things too far for their time. Let's get into it. Number 12. Nissan Pulsar GT-R. This is one of those cars people usually don't take seriously until they actually see what it can do. On the surface, it looks like a small hatchback, nothing that would make you stop and think twice. And that's exactly what made it so easy to overlook. Because if you were judging it the usual way, by size or presence, it didn't feel like it belonged in the same conversation as performance cars. But that changes the moment it moves. The all-wheel drive system grips instantly, the turbo comes in strong, and suddenly the small car starts pulling in a way that feels completely out of proportion to what you're looking at. It doesn't build speed slowly, it jumps forward, and once it does, it keeps going with a kind of urgency you don't expect from something this compact. And that's where it became a problem. Because this wasn't just quick in a straight line, it was built with rally roots, which meant it could handle rough conditions, tight corners, and aggressive driving without falling apart. It didn't need perfect roads to perform. That combination made it hard to classify, too capable for its size, too aggressive for what people expected from a hatchback, and not something that easily fit into standard expectations at the time. And once you understand that, it stops looking like a small car and starts feeling like a serious one. Number 11. Mitsubishi Lancer Evolution 5 GSR. You don't need to look twice at this one to know it's built with intent. Even standing still, there's a sense that this isn't just another sedan trying to look sporty. The stance feels purposeful, the design feels functional, and once you get behind the wheel, that feeling becomes very clear. The moment you press the throttle, the response is immediate. There's no soft buildup or hesitation. It pulls hard, grips instantly, and gets moving in a way that feels direct and focused. The all-wheel drive system doesn't wait around to figure things out, it just puts the power down and keeps the car settled. But what really changes the experience is how it handles direction. You guide it into a corner, and it reacts without delay. It holds its line, stays balanced, and feels ready for the next input before you even make it. There's no sense of the car catching up to you, it feels like it's already where you need it to be. And that's what separates it. This wasn't designed just to be quick on smooth roads, it carries the kind of control that comes from rally influence, where conditions are unpredictable and precision matters more than anything else. Once you drive it with that in mind, it stops feeling like a fast sedan and starts feeling like something built for a completely different level of driving. Number 10. Honda Civic Type REK9. This one doesn't rely on size, noise, or forced aggression to get your attention. In fact, if you didn't know what you were looking at, you could easily mistake it for a regular hatchback. And that's exactly what made it so easy for people to overlook. But spend a few minutes behind the wheel and the whole picture changes. The engine doesn't feel heavy or overwhelming, it feels eager. You press the throttle, and instead of a big push, you get this clean, rising response that keeps building as you stay in it. It wants to be driven properly, not just quickly, and once you match that rhythm, the car starts to come alive in a way that's hard to ignore. What stands out more than anything is how precise everything feels. The steering is direct, the chassis responds instantly, and the car moves exactly the way you intend it to. There's no delay, no extra movement, nothing wasted. And that's where it separates itself. Because while others were focusing on raw output, this one focused on control, weight, and response. It doesn't overpower you, it works with you. And once you understand that balance, you realize why it earned so much respect without needing to shout about it. Number 9. Nissan Stagea 260RS Autech. You wouldn't pick this out of a parking lot and think, that's the fast one. It looks like something you'd use every day. Plenty of space, calm design, nothing about it asking for attention. And that's exactly why it works the way it does. because nobody expects what's underneath. Give it a bit of throttle and the illusion starts to fade. Instead of feeling heavy or slow to react, it moves with purpose. The power comes in strong, the grip is there right away, and the whole car starts behaving like something far more focused than its shape suggests. It doesn't struggle to get going, it gets there quickly and settles in. Spend a little more time with it and you begin to notice how stable it feels at speed. You're not dealing with a car that needs constant correction. It tracks cleanly, holds its line, and gives you the confidence to keep pushing without feeling like you're forcing it to do something unnatural. That's not what you expect from something built like this. And that contrast is exactly what defines it. A car that looks built for practicality but delivers performance in a way that feels completely out of place for its category. It didn't fit into one box, and that's why it ended up standing out so much once people understood what it really was. Number 8. Nissan 300ZX Twin Turbo Z32. This is where things start to feel a bit more complete, because up until now, you've seen cars that are sharp, quick, and focused in their own way, but this one comes in with a slightly different feel. It's not trying to surprise you in one moment. It's built to keep delivering the same level of performance the longer you stay in it. You get on the throttle and the response feels strong right away, but what stands out more is how smoothly it carries that speed forward. It doesn't spike, it doesn't feel uneven, it just keeps building in a way that feels controlled from start to finish. And when you start pushing it a bit more, that's when you notice the balance. The car doesn't feel nervous or overly aggressive, it stays composed, holds its line, and gives you the confidence to keep going without constantly adjusting your inputs. You're not correcting it, you're working with it. Now, this is where it separates itself from a lot of others, because it doesn't demand perfect driving to feel good. Even at normal speeds, it feels planted and predictable. Then when you push it harder, it doesn't fall apart. It simply keeps doing what it was already doing, just faster. And that's what made it stand out. Not just how quick it was, but how easy it made that speed feel. Number 7. Toyota Celica GT-4 ST205. Imagine a car that feels more confident the worse the road gets. That's the easiest way to understand this one. It wasn't shaped around smooth highways or perfect conditions. It comes from a background where surfaces change, grip disappears, and control becomes everything. And once you keep that in mind, the way it behaves starts to click. You get on the throttle and there's no drama to it. The power goes down cleanly, the all-wheel drive system sorts things out in the background, and the car just moves forward with a kind of quiet confidence. It's not trying to shock you, it's making sure everything works the way it should. Where it really stands out is when things stop being ideal. You throw it into a corner that isn't perfectly clean, maybe the surface isn't great, maybe the road isn't as smooth as you'd like. And instead of feeling unsettled, the car stays composed. It holds its line, keeps its balance, and gives you the sense that you can trust it more than you expected. That changes how you approach it. You stop holding back and start leaning into it, because it keeps responding the same way every time. That kind of confidence doesn't come from raw speed alone, it comes from control. And once you experience that, it becomes clear why this car never really fit into the usual categories. It wasn't built just to perform, it was built to handle situations others would struggle with. Number 6. Subaru Impreza 22 BSTI. This one doesn't try to blend in at all, and honestly, it doesn't need to. From the moment you see it, there's already a sense that this isn't built for casual driving. The stance, the shape, everything about it hints at something more focused. But the real difference shows up once you actually get behind the wheel. You ease into the throttle and the response feels immediate, almost like the car is already ready for what you're about to ask from it. And as speed builds, it doesn't lose that sharpness. It stays planted, holds its grip, and keeps pushing forward in a way that feels direct rather than filtered. Where it really starts to stand out is in how it handles change. You turn in and the car reacts without hesitation. There's no delay, no extra movement, just a clean transition from one direction to another. It feels stable but not heavy, responsive but not nervous. That balance is what makes it so effective when you start driving it harder. And then there's the bigger picture. This wasn't built just to be quick on smooth roads. roads, it carries the kind of character that comes from rally influence, where conditions aren't always predictable and control matters more than anything else. That mindset shows up in everything it does, and once you feel that combination of grip, response, and confidence, it's easy to understand why this one stands out the way it does. Number 5. Mazda RX-7 FD Type R Bathurst. If you like cars that do a lot for you, this probably isn't the one you'll pick first. This is the kind of car that expects you to meet it halfway. It doesn't soften things or fill in the gaps. What you put in is exactly what you get back. And once you realize that, the whole experience starts to feel very different. You roll into the throttle and the response doesn't rush you. It builds, smooth, steady, almost like it's encouraging you to stay in it instead of jumping in and out. The more you let it rev, the more it starts to open up, and that's when you begin to understand what it's really about. The engine plays a big role in that. It doesn't behave the way you'd expect, and because of that, the car develops its own rhythm. You're not just pressing and going, you're working with it, keeping it in that range where everything feels right. And once you get into that flow, it becomes hard to drive anything else the same way. Now pay attention to how it reacts. You make a small adjustment and it responds immediately. No delay, no extra movement, just a direct connection between you and the car. At first it can feel a bit demanding, but once you settle into it, that responsiveness becomes the best part of the experience. Through corners, that connection becomes even clearer. The car feels light, balanced, and completely in sync with what you're asking from it. And at that point, you're not just driving fast, you're actually enjoying how the car behaves while doing it. Number 4. Honda NSX-R. This one doesn't try to impress you with numbers. It quietly makes you question everything you thought mattered, because on paper it doesn't scream dominance. No oversized engine, no exaggerated claims, nothing that forces your attention in the usual way. But the moment you start driving it, you realize very quickly that was never the point. Everything here feels intentional. You press the throttle and the response is clean, precise, and perfectly timed. It doesn't overwhelm you, it guides you. The car builds speed in a way that feels controlled from the very beginning, and the more you stay in it, the more you notice how consistent that response remains. But the real shift happens when you start pushing it. The car feels lighter than you expect, sharper than it looks, and incredibly stable when you start carrying speed through corners. There's no excess movement, no hesitation, just a direct connection between what you ask and what the car delivers. And that's where it starts to separate itself. Because instead of relying on raw output, this car focuses on precision. Every input matters, and every response feels clean. It doesn't try to hide the experience or soften it. It gives it to you exactly as it is. Now think about that for a moment. A car that doesn't depend on brute force, yet still delivers performance at this level. That approach is what made it so different, and honestly, a bit difficult to fit into the usual expectations at the time. And once you understand that, it stops being understated and starts feeling deliberate. Number 3. Nissan Skyline GT-R R34. Ever driven something where you feel confident almost a little too quickly? That's what this car does. It doesn't take time to grow on you. Within a few minutes, you start realizing you're pushing it harder than you normally would. Not because you're trying to, but because it makes everything feel that controlled. You press the throttle, and instead of dealing with wheel spin or hesitation, the car just moves. The grip is there immediately, the power feels organized, and everything happens in a way that doesn't force you to think twice. It's quick, no doubt, but more importantly, it's predictable. And that changes how you drive it. With most fast cars, there's always that moment where you ease off a little just to stay safe. Here, that moment doesn't show up the same way. The more you stay in it, the more the car feels like it's still within its comfort zone. It doesn't get unsettled. It doesn't start asking for corrections. It just keeps doing exactly what you expect. Take it through corners, and that feeling stays with you. It turns in clean, holds its line, and carries speed without making you work for it. You're not reacting to the car, you're moving with it, and that's a big difference. And once people experience that consistently, everything shifted. Because at that point, it wasn't just about speed anymore. It was about how easily that speed could be used and how reliably it showed up every time. And that's exactly what made this one so hard to ignore. Number 2. Toyota Supra Mk4 RZ. Let me put it this way. This is the car people stopped doubting once they saw what it could handle. Because at first, it doesn't try to overwhelm you. You drive it and it feels solid, controlled, almost relaxed for something sitting this high on the list. The power is there, no question about it, but it doesn't throw everything at you in one go. It builds in a way that feels measured, like it knows exactly how much to give and when. And that's where the real story begins. You spend more time with it, and you start noticing how effortlessly it deals with that power. It doesn't feel stressed, it doesn't feel like it's working at its limit, it just keeps delivering without showing strain. And once people realized that, they didn't leave it alone. They pushed it. More boost, more pressure, more load, and instead of breaking down or becoming unpredictable, it kept responding. That's not something you fully understand until you see it happen again and again. The car wasn't just fast in its original form, it had room to become something much more. Now that changes everything, because once a car proves it can handle that kind of stress consistently, it stops being just another fast option. It becomes something people trust when they want real performance, not just a quick moment. And even today, when you look at it compared to others, that reputation still holds. It's not just about what it did, it's about how far it could go without losing itself along the way. Number 1. Nissan Skyline GT-R R34 V-Spec 2N1. You already know this one was going to be here. But the real question is, does it actually deserve it? Because a lot of cars build a reputation over time. This one didn't wait for that. From the moment people started driving it properly, it became very clear that this wasn't just another fast car trying to stand out. It was operating on a different level. You get behind the wheel and the first thing that hits you isn't just speed. It's how quickly everything comes together. You press the throttle and the response is immediate. No hesitation, no confusion, just clean power going straight to the ground. The all-wheel drive system locks in, the car grips hard, and suddenly you're moving in a way that feels far more controlled than it should at that pace. And that's only part of it, because what really separates this car is how repeatable everything feels. You can push it once, twice, 10 times, and it keeps delivering the same level of performance without falling apart or asking you to adjust your driving every time. It doesn't rely on one perfect moment. It gives you consistency, and that's where it starts to feel different from everything else. Now take that into corners and it doesn't lose that confidence. It stays planted, responds instantly, and lets you carry speed without second guessing what it's about to do next. You're not correcting it, you're trusting it. And that kind of trust doesn't come easily, especially at this level of performance. And once you experience that, everything starts to make sense. Because this isn't just about being the fastest on paper. It's about how easily it delivers that speed, how controlled it feels while doing it, and how much confidence it gives you when you're actually driving it the way it's meant to be driven. And that's why it sits at the top. Not because it demands attention, but because once you drive it, you stop comparing it and start measuring everything else against it. And that's the wrap for today's video, guys. When you look at all of these cars together, it becomes pretty clear this wasn't just about speed. Each one came with a different approach, different strengths, and a different way of delivering performance. Some relied on precision, some on control, some pushed limits people didn't expect at the time, but all of them had one thing in common. They didn't fit neatly into what was considered normal, and that's really what made them stand out. This list wasn't about which cars were simply quick in a straight line. It was about the ones that went a step further, the ones that changed how performance was seen, and in some cases, the ones that didn't quite fit into the system they were supposed to enter. Now, I want to hear from you. Which one of these really stood out to you? And more importantly, do you think any of these cars were actually too much for their time? Or were they just ahead of the rules they were built around? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because that's where things get interesting.